The mop bucket tipped over in front of 300 parents and the whole cafeteria went silent because everyone was staring at the single dad on his knees, soaking wet, while a woman in a designer coat pointed at him and said the words that would haunt this town for years. This is exactly why some men should never be trusted with children. Nobody clapped back. Nobody said a word in his defense. But 3 days later, a black SUV pulled into that school parking lot. 2 men in uniform stepped out and asked for him by a name none of the teachers had ever heard, and that woman's face went white as snow. Stay with me, because what happened next is the kind of story that reminds you why kindness always wins in the end. The single dad had been the janitor at Lincoln Elementary for almost 2 years. He came in before sunrise and left after sunset, mopping floors, fixing broken chairs, and quietly leaving granola bars in the desks of kids he knew went home hungry. Nobody knew much about him. He kept his head down, wore the same gray jacket every day, and never talked about his past. All anyone really knew was that he had a 7-year-old daughter named Lily, and he was raising her alone. That morning was the school's big fundraising breakfast, the fanciest event of the year, filled with parents in nice clothes sipping coffee out of paper cups that cost more than his weekly grocery budget. He wasn't even supposed to be in that hallway. He was just trying to clean up a spill before somebody slipped. But his daughter came running through the crowd, so excited to show him a drawing she'd made, that she bumped right into his mop bucket and sent it crashing across the tile floor. Water splashed onto a woman's white heels. Her name was Marlene Ashworth, and she was the head of the parent committee, the kind of woman everyone in town both admired and feared. She didn't even look at Lily. She looked straight at the single dad, and in front of everyone, she said it. This is exactly why some men should never be trusted with children. The room went quiet in that horrible way where you can hear your own heartbeat. Lily's little hands started shaking. She looked up at her father, waiting for him to defend himself, to say something, anything. But the single dad just knelt down, wiped the floor with his own sleeve, and whispered to his daughter, "It's okay, baby. Accidents happen. Let's clean it up together." He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He didn't even look angry. He just kept working, like he had learned a long time ago that some battles aren't worth fighting in front of a child. But you could see it in his eyes, the years of being underestimated, the exhaustion of being judged by people who never once asked what he'd been through. What none of them knew was that the single dad hadn't always pushed a mop for a living. 2 years earlier, he had been someone completely different, someone the town would never have guessed. But after his wife passed away suddenly, he made a decision that shocked everyone who had ever known him. He walked away from a career that most men would kill for, just so he could be home every single night to tuck his daughter into bed. He never told anyone at the school. He didn't want pity. He didn't want questions. He just wanted to be a good father. That night, Lily cried herself to sleep, not because of the wet floor, but because she heard the whispers in the hallway afterward. Kids can hear more than adults think. She heard another mother say, "I heard he can barely hold a real job," and it broke her heart to see people talk about her father that way when he worked harder than anyone she knew. The single dad sat outside her door that night, listening to her sniffle, and for the first time in a long while, he let himself feel the weight of everything he had been carrying alone. The next morning, something strange happened. A car nobody recognized parked outside the school, and 2 men in crisp military uniforms stepped out, asking the front office for a man by a code name, not the name on the janitor badge, but a name that made the school secretary drop her coffee cup. She had no idea who they meant, until the single dad walked past the office and one of the men snapped straight up in salute and said, "Sergeant, it's an honor to see you again." The color drained from every face in that office. Marlene Ashworth, who happened to be picking up paperwork at that exact moment, froze in the doorway. The men explained that they had been trying to locate him for months, ever since his old unit had nominated him for a Medal of Honor for actions taken years earlier, actions that had saved the lives of 6 fellow soldiers during a mission that nobody outside the military had ever been allowed to talk about. It turned out, The janitor mopping floors at Lincoln Elementary had once been one of the most decorated soldiers in his division. A man trained to stay calm under fire. A man who had carried wounded soldiers through gunfire without hesitation. Marlene stood there in stunned silence as the officer continued. We searched for over a year because he never filed for benefits, never asked for recognition. He just disappeared after his wife's funeral to raise his daughter. The whole office was quiet except for the sound of her heels shifting nervously against the floor. This was the same man she had humiliated in front of the entire school, calling him untrustworthy, when in reality he had sacrificed more for this community and this country than anyone in that room ever would. But it wasn't the medal or the uniforms that mattered most to him. What mattered was walking back into that hallway and seeing his daughter's face. The moment she realized her father wasn't something to be embarrassed about, he was someone to be proud of, Lily ran up to him, tears in her eyes, and asked, "Daddy, why didn't you tell anyone you were a hero?" He knelt down, brushed her hair back gently, and said, "Because being your dad is the only title I ever wanted to be known for." Later that day, Marlene approached him in the hallway, her confidence completely gone. Her voice trembled as she said, "I owe you an apology. I judged you without knowing anything about you, and that was wrong of me." The single dad looked at her, not with anger, but with quiet understanding. He said, "You're not the first person to judge someone by what they see on the outside. I just hope next time you remember that everyone carries a story you know nothing about." His words weren't meant to shame her. They were meant to teach her, and you could see the lesson land deep in her heart. Over the following weeks, something beautiful happened. Marlene, humbled by her mistake, started a new program at the school teaching kids about respect, kindness, and not judging people by their jobs or appearances. She specifically asked the single dad to speak at the very first assembly, and though he hesitated, he agreed for one reason only: his daughter asked him to. Standing in front of the same students and parents who once looked down on him, he said something that made grown adults wipe away tears. "I didn't lose my dignity the day that water spilled. I could have lost it if I let anger control me. Real strength isn't about being seen. It's about who you choose to be when nobody is watching, and who you protect when everyone is." The school gave him a standing ovation, but he didn't care about the applause. He looked straight at his daughter in the front row, clapping harder than anyone else, tears streaming down her little face, and that was the only reward he ever needed. From that day on, the single dad wasn't known as just the janitor anymore. He became a symbol of quiet strength, proof that heroes don't always wear capes or uniforms. Sometimes they wear gray jackets and carry mop buckets, choosing love and humility over pride every single day. Marlene later admitted to other parents that meeting him changed the way she saw everyone around her. Not just people in uniforms or important titles, but everyone doing quiet, hard work that often goes unnoticed. She realized real character isn't loud. It's steady, it's patient, and it shows up even when no one's clapping. The single dad never asked for recognition, never wanted fame. He just wanted to raise his daughter with love, dignity, and honesty, and in doing so, he taught an entire community something money could never buy. Years later, Lily would tell people that the proudest moment of her life wasn't watching her father receive his medal. It was watching him mop that same hallway the very next day, humble as ever, proving that true heroes never change who they are, no matter how the world finally sees them. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all, that kindness, humility, and love will always outshine judgment, no matter how loud the world tries to be. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a comment to share your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Wings of Kindness for more inspiring stories. Remember, even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life forever.